I'm going to turn it over to everybody at the First Merchants team. And thank you so much for putting this presentation together.
I'll kick us off and get us started. My name is Mike Irvin. I'm the market president for Southern Wayne County. Appreciate everyone joining. As a lot of you know, our bank has been a long time member of the chamber and involved in a lot of the things that the chamber has done. I am a board member as well. I will say that fraud is very real, and this is very topical for what's going on, unfortunately, in the world today. I have a longtime client that I've known for 20 years, and most recently he experienced fraud on his checking account, and it was extremely disruptive to him. We were able to assist him and get a lot of it handled, but I think that the big takeaway for him was he probably should have done some of those things a little sooner. It's not a matter of, will you experience fraud? It's probably, unfortunately, a matter of when you'll experience fraud, particularly as the volume of individual transactions that you process goes up. There's just more opportunity, unfortunately. So with that, I will turn it over to Angel Gibson.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Angel Gibson. I'm the Treasury Management Officer. I cover our Downriver area for First Merchants, and part of our job is to help our clients protect their money. So we do have products and for our clients, but this is this video that we're sharing is more of a way for you to pay better attention to what's going on in your business and how you can prevent your business from fraud. Little tips, and it's very informational, and I think you'll really get a lot out of it. So I appreciate you guys coming to this presentation, and I'm going to send it over to Amanda in our marketing department.
Good morning, you guys. So I'm Amanda Phoebus. I'm on our corporate social responsibility team at First Merchants, and all of this work that we're doing in the community, it's really ingrained in our culture, and financial wellness is such a key part of how we come to you in our business communities and personal. So we have our new vision statement that we launched last year, which was to enhance the financial wellness of our diverse communities. And that means many things. Part of that is our financial wellness outreach. And as we are working on putting together a very robust whole bank program, we know that our business community is a key part of the audience that we want to reach. So we are going to be bringing you more tools and resources as we continue to build the program. So this is one piece of it, but of course, for your personal perspective too in finances, one of the things that I'm really excited about, if you've seen personality tests like Myers-Briggs or things like that, everyone likes to learn about themselves, and money is highly personal for both your business and for you personally. And as part of our program that will be coming later this year, we have a money personality profile that you'll be able to build, and hopefully you'll get a lot of useful information from an entire suite of resources that's coming. So I am going to share my screen, and this is a little bit different of a presentation. It is a recording, but do flag me and let me know if you have questions. We can pause it along the way. We are doing it by video because there's a lot of detail that we wanted to share with you. So just flag me if you have information to share. We like it to be conversational so everyone can get the most value out of this, and it's a great shared learning experience. So do that. Okay, can everyone see?
Yes.
Hello, and welcome to the Payments and Business Fraud Seminar presented by First Merchants Bank. I'm Heather Gigliotti, Treasury Management Officer, and I'd like to thank you for taking your time to learn more about fraud mitigation and what you can do to avoid becoming a victim of fraud. Today we're going to discuss trends we see in fraud and how you can mitigate the risks. We'll discuss current fraud statistics, including business email compromise, ransomware, credit card fraud, and best practices for fraud mitigation. According to the 2021 Association for Financial Professionals Payments Fraud and Control Survey Report, 74% of businesses were targeted for some sort of payment scam in 2020, and that's about 3 out of 4 businesses. Checks continue to be one of the most frauded payment methods at 66%, closely followed by business email compromise, with 62% of organizations reporting some sort of attempted scam. According to the survey, in 2020, 74% of businesses and organizations were targets of payment scams. While that is a smaller share than the percentages reported in 2018 and 19, it still signals that a significant share of businesses continue to be impacted. So why the decrease? Many businesses heightened their security practices due to many of their employees working from home, and organizations cutting back on spending during the COVID-19 pandemic caused fewer payments and, as a result, fewer checks being written. As you can see from the chart, 66% of respondents said that they experienced either actual check fraud or attempted check fraud. Checks can be altered. For example, you wrote a check for $100, but it's trying to clear the bank for $1,000, or you wrote the check to somebody named Sarah, but somebody named Heather is trying to cash the check. Checks can be deposited twice. For example, a person can mobile deposit a check and then take it to the banking center or an ATM to redeposit it for a second time. And this can happen maliciously by a criminal or by accident. A person simply mobile deposits the check, they leave it on a counter, and then a well-meaning spouse picks it up, takes it to the banking center, and cashes it a second time. Whether by accident or whether maliciously, the result to your organization is the same. The money comes out of your account twice. And checks can be fraudulently created to look like your checks and cleared through your account. We live in a world where most children can make a check that looks like your check, and they can make it look like your check. They can take your known valid signature and stamp it on several counterfeit checks and try to clear those checks. So wire transfer fraud was at 39%. And remember, once you hit submit on a wire, there is generally no recourse. So if you're accidentally sending money to a fraudster, that might be permanent. But let's move on to ACH debit fraud at 34%. And ACH debit fraud occurs when a criminal electronically withdraws money from your business account. And I'll give you an example of how easily this can happen. Let's say, for example, you give somebody a check for $100 for mowing the lawn. They can mobile deposit it on their phone, and then they are under no obligation to keep your check information safe, private, and secure. They can put it in a trash can, they can leave it on a table. They have no obligation to keep your account number, routing number, and known valid signature on that check safe and secure. As a result, your check routing number, account number, and known valid signature are all available on that check for somebody to pick up out of the trash can or off of a table. Any person can use your information from the bottom of that check. They can call their credit card company and they can pay off $15,000 with your account number and your routing number, and the funds will come out of your account as an ACH debit. It's a felony, but people are still going to try to do it. And what's particularly alarming about this type of high dollar fraud is the amounts that are taken. So when a person perpetrates a check fraud, they have to find somebody to cash that check for them, whether it's a banking center or a check cashing place. And as a result, they have to take lower dollar amounts. So usually the check fraud that we see is under about $2,000 per check. When a person perpetrates an ACH fraud, they can take up to the available balance in the account. And it's important to note that when a business experiences an unauthorized ACH debit from their account, they do not have the same protections that a consumer might have in the event of a fraud. A business only has 24 hours to let the bank know that an ACH debit is unauthorized. And I will say that again. A business or organization only has 24 hours to let the bank know that a fraudulent debit has been withdrawn from their account. And this is not a First Merchants Bank rule. All banks have to follow the same NACHA guidelines for ACH debits. So regardless of where you do your banking, you only have 24 hours to let the bank know that a fraud has occurred. After that time frame, we're going to do everything we can to help you recover the funds, but an investigation can take up to 180 days, and temporary credit is not automatically given like it is on a consumer account. So 24-hour account reconciliation continues to be the very best practice when it comes to avoiding fraud losses. Business email compromise was the key source of attempted or actual payments fraud in 2020. Business email compromise occurs when a criminal sends you a message that appears to be from a known source in an attempt to get you to send them money. It can appear to be from a vendor, your company CEO, or a coworker requesting some sort of payment. A scammer might spoof an email account or a website that looks like something you would normally conduct business with. They might send you a phishing email that appears to be from somebody that you know, a trusted sender. They could actually take over that person's actual email and send you messages from their email. And their goal, of course, is to trick you into clicking on a link that might allow malicious software called malware to be loaded onto your computer. And then they can gain access to your computer undetected and determine the best way to defraud you. The goal of a business email compromise is to trick you into sending money to a fraudster. Team members on your accounts payable team are the most vulnerable to this type of fraud because they have access to your ACH module, your wire module, and your checks. An example of business email compromise is the following case study. One of our manufacturing companies received an email that their vendor was going to take payment by ACH and included the ACH instructions in the email. A very well-meaning accounts payable employee immediately changed the payment method without questioning the source. And months went on whereby the manufacturer was sending their payments to the fraudster. The vendor then stopped shipping supplies when the account was in arrears almost $250,000. This prompted an investigation by both companies to reveal that the vendor's email had actually been hacked. The manufacturing company had sent almost $250,000 to the criminal, and this could have been prevented by trusting but verifying. Always make sure if you get an email or a letter or a phone call asking to change payment information that you verify using a known valid phone number outside of the email. So what happens when you do discover a fraud? The most common way a fraud is discovered is through missing funds out of your bank account. That's the most likely scenario that you're going to determine that a fraud has occurred. At that point, the funds are already gone and everyone involved is working to recover them. Generally, in the event of a fraud, you're going to need to notify the banking center or your relationship manager. An affidavit of fraud will be necessary and it will need to be signed and notarized. And depending on the dollar amount of the fraud, a police report might need to be obtained. And again, a business only has 24 hours to let the bank know if an ACH has been withdrawn from the account that has been unauthorized. Again, that is not our rule. All banks have to follow the NACHA guidelines as it pertains to ACH withdrawals. So I'll give you a minute to look at the screen. What do all of these companies have in common? Unfortunately, they've all had their reputations tarnished by a data breach. Home Depot and Target were both breached through the login credentials of one of their vendors. The Anthem breach occurred due to a foreign attack phishing email, which allowed malware into their system. And the Equifax breach was caused by a single employee mistake that compromised the sensitive personal information of nearly 146 million Americans. So how can you avoid becoming a victim? We're going to talk a little bit today about domain names and how to recognize them. So when you're reading your email, it's very important to be able to effectively identify the sender of your incoming communications. So we're going to talk about domain names and how to recognize them. If you'll take a look at the screen, you'll see the email from Kevin G at uber.pickup.com. So if you were to receive this email, thank you for scheduling a ride with Uber. I'll be at your location shortly. Click below to track my progress. Should you trust this email? Is it actually from Uber? No, it's not. And in order to recognize the domain name, you have to go to the last period in the email or website address and then go back a section to the word pickup. Then the two words on either side of the last period is the actual domain name of the website that link is going to take you to. As you can clearly see, this email is not from Uber, it's from pickup.com. Had you clicked on this, you may have inadvertently allowed malware, ransomware, keystroke capture software, or a plethora of other viruses onto your computer. So let's try another one. So what domain is this website? Yeah, we all want to know when our packages are going to arrive, but it's critically important that you know what you're clicking on prior to clicking on it. So what is the domain name of this website? This one is accountalert.com. Clicking on that could have led to malware on your computer. So if you'll take a look at the website on the screen, what is the domain of this site? So while you look at this, I know this is a long one, so go to the last period, look at the section before and then after the last period, and you'll get the domain name. But fraudsters are going to use social engineering to gather information about you or your company. You're going to think that it makes sense. Not too long ago, an email was sent to a company of ours that had a temporary outage of their time card system. And on Friday of that week, they all received an email requesting that they validate their time cards with the link listed on the screen due to the outage. The URL looked something like this. The website address looked something like this. And upon first glance, it appeared to make sense. They did have an actual time card outage the Wednesday before. But was this actually sent from their human resources team? No, it wasn't. Remember, to go to the last period in the URL, look at the section before and after the last period, and that's going to give you the actual domain name. Recognizing this could save you from a phishing attack. Fraudsters are going to try to obtain a very quick emotional response that would cause you to click on a link without thinking twice. So subject matters of these links might include a letter from your boss. Sure, we're all going to be on high alert when we get a letter from our boss. Package delivery, we all want to know when our packages are going to be arriving. Or an urgent message from HR, like we just talked about, maybe a third request. Nobody likes getting those. Debt collection or a school shooting. So again, fraudsters are going to try to get you to click without thinking twice. 91% of all cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. So let's talk a little bit about links embedded in an email. How do you recognize the actual website address that a link is going to take you to? If you take a look at the website on the screen at first glance, it looks like it might be from Amazon.com. So we are good to go, right? We can go ahead and click. Wrong. Links embedded in an email can be spoofed to made to look like other addresses. So if you hover on a link in one of your emails, you're going to get a pop-up with the actual link to the actual website that it's going to take you to if you click on it. So bizorders.com is clearly not Amazon. And by clicking on it, you could be opening up your computer to fraud. So if you'll take a look at the next one, we all want to make sure our bills are paid on time. If we receive a threat of collections coming through our email, we're going to want to be pretty quick to respond and click on it to resolve it. But if you look at this contact us, where does this link actually take you? If you hover over it with your mouse, you'll see that breach team is definitely not St. Vincent Medical Hospital, and that you should not click on this, and it definitely is a phishing attempt. We encourage you to adopt a strategy of trust but verify. Take a look at the email that's on your screen. You can assume that it's fraudulent because it's included in our presentation today, but why is it fraudulent? I'll give you a minute. Think, do I know this person? Does this email make sense? Was I expecting an email like this? It's very subtle. If you look at the sender, the words firstmerchants.com, the I in first is actually a lowercase l. And this is an example of URL hijacking. It looks like it's from First Merchants Bank, but it's not. And I know that it's subtle. I know that it's small. And that's exactly how people are being tricked into clicking on links into fraudulent emails. Very smart people are being tricked every single day. Be extremely cautious with incoming emails. Today's scammers are extremely sophisticated. The days of grammatical and spelling errors from Nigerian princes, those are gone. They're going to be very, very subtle, just like the I and L on your screen. In most cases, your bank cannot stop you from intentionally sending money to a fraudster. We do not have a product or a service that will prevent you from sending money to a criminal. We can only educate you and your team on the trends that we see so that you won't be lured into sending money to a scammer. So let's talk a little bit about ransomware. And ransomware is a type of very malicious software or malware designed to deny access to your computer system or data until your ransom is paid. So ransomware typically spreads through phishing emails or by unknowingly visiting an infected website. On the screen, you'll see some ways that you can protect yourself against ransomware. We recommend that you use the most current version of the software. We recommend that you load updates when they become available for your phone or your computer. I think we've all had a moment where we've looked down at our phone and updates are necessary. We program them out to install automatically in a few days. But we recommend that you do that as quickly as possible because fraudsters are exploiting the loopholes in older software to gain access to your devices. We want to make sure that you're educating your employees on business email compromise because, again, we don't have a single product that's going to stop them from clicking send on an ACH or a wire to a fraudster. Education is the best thing that we can do to help mitigate that risk. We recommend that you have an IT team and take their advice. There's usually a cost involved with taking their advice, whether it's software upgrades or hardware upgrades. Pay it. Definitely pay it. If you need help garnering support for this in your organization, I would encourage you to Google the City of Baltimore ransom. And I'll give you the cliff notes. Their computers were held for ransom. They did not pay it. And it ended up costing the city over $18 million in damages and lost revenue. So hire an IT team, take their advice. I know there's a cost to it, but pay it. It'll be worth it in the end. And definitely make sure you change your password on your router. So when you're discussing sensitive information, identification, your company's intellectual property, be aware of your surroundings. Your phone, the Alexa device, your Google Assistant, your Siri Assistant, your neighboring offices, your coworkers, your family, they're all listening to you. And if you're on a public Wi-Fi network, you should assume that people can see all of your activity and all of your keystroke data. We would like to think that this information is safe and secure, but we can't be certain. We never know where the next fraud is going to come from or how they're going to obtain the information. I think we've all had an experience where we were simply talking about an item, and then later that day or later that week, that item started showing up in our ads or in our Facebook feed. So when you're working from home, are you using the default password that came with your router? If you are, a scammer can easily gain access to your system, your data, and your keystrokes. So make sure when you're talking about sensitive information that you turn off your devices because they are listening to you. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions and the fraud mitigation tools that are available. So as it pertains to your online banking, are you sharing your login credentials with someone else or with a team of people? If you are, I would encourage you to stop doing this. Get all of your users their own username and their own password. In the event of a fraud event or an embezzlement, we as your bank can't help you identify the online banking activity of your users if everyone is sharing the same credentials. So your online banking is very robust. I would encourage you to get multiple users. Each user can have their own entitlements and authorizations. And I would recommend that you set up alerts in your online banking so that if something's happening in your online banking, you can be alerted to it by an email or a text. ACH origination module is next on the list. We want to recommend that you use fewer checks. Instead of handing somebody your account number and routing number and known valid signature for a signer on your account, instead use an ACH module to send people, employees, vendors, their payments electronically. It is safe, private, secure, and encrypted, and your recipients are not going to get your account information. Credit cards and purchasing cards, again, we recommend that you try to use fewer checks. Our purchasing card program can provide a vendor match to help you determine which of your suppliers will accept a credit card payment. We do have fraud mitigation tools and modules available. Now, daily account reconciliation continues to be one of the very best ways to avoid fraud losses, but positive pay modules can help. One of the challenges we have in banking is that we want to make it as easy as possible for you to get your money, but as hard as possible for fraudsters to get your money, and we don't know what checks you've written. So Check Positive Pay is a module that we plug into your existing online banking single login, which would allow you to upload your check register into your online banking. Once you upload your check register in your online banking, we can police the checks as they come through. So if you wrote a check for $100 but is trying to clear the bank for $1,000, the software will stop that. If you wrote a check to somebody named Eric but somebody named Heather is trying to cash it, the software will stop that. It will stop checks that are stale dated, so written over 6 months ago. And most importantly, if somebody creates 12 checks that look like your checks and attempt to clear them through the bank, they're not going to work. The software will stop those because it won't have a matching item. And ACH Positive Pay is another fraud module which basically puts a gate down. So it will prevent unauthorized ACH debits from coming out of your account. Honestly, the module will prevent all debits from coming out of your account. But we do know that you have allowed some businesses to come into your account to pull money. As a result of that, the software will allow you to create payment rules for the folks that are allowed to come into your account to pull out money. So then you won't be bothered by the folks that are allowed to pull out money, but the tool will prevent somebody from picking up your check off of the street and calling their credit card to pay off their balance with your account number and your routing number. What I like best about the Positive Pay module is it also opens a time window through which you can negotiate your items prior to them coming out of your account. So historically, we talked about the fraud process being you recognize the fraud, the money's gone, we fill out an affidavit of fraud, police report, come to the banking center, all of that stuff. Positive Pay opens a time window through which you can negotiate those items prior to it coming out of your account. So if your Positive Pay module recognizes a fraudulent item, it asks you to log in to check on it, you can quickly press a button that says return. The money will never come out of your account, and you can circumvent the normal dispute fraud process because the money never came out of your account. So fraud mitigation tools of ACH Positive Pay and Check Positive Pay really can be great tools to help with fraud mitigation. A remote deposit capture device would allow you to make your check deposits right from your office. The device is going to help you create your deposit ticket. It will scan a copy of the checks on both sides, front and back. It will help balance the deposit, and it creates a file for retention purposes. A lockbox allows your receivables to be sent to a secure First Merchants Bank P.O. box, whereby we pick up the payments, we open the envelopes, scan the remittance that comes along with it, and we deposit your checks. We can provide additional data to you and your team that can be plugged into your accounting software in order to mark those payments as paid to save time. On the screen, you'll see a list of our best practices, and I recommend that you take some time to read through them all, but I wanted to highlight Trust but Verify. We recommend that you never call a phone number that's on an email, a letter, or even call back a phone number that calls you asking to change payment information. Always reach out to a known verifiable phone number outside of that communication. We recommend that you reach out to your insurance agent and request what options you might have available for insurance fraud. We never know where the next fraud is going to come from, so we recommend talking to your insurance agent about riders that might be available to you and your business. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our merchant card processing for our card fraud presentation.
Thanks, Heather. I am Gretchen Schilb with First Merchants Bank, and I am here to present our presentation on card fraud. As society shifts towards cashless industries, credit and debit cards have become the preferred currency used by consumers who demand ease of use and convenient payments. New technology has helped card payments evolve, and purchases can be made anywhere in stores, over the phone, and online. However, more avenues to accept card payments present a bigger platform for fraudsters. Card payment fraud has become one of the leading forms of fraud. During this presentation, I will present the various types of card fraud and the latest fraud trends to be aware of while using industry-wide examples. We will also discuss tips and best practices to help mitigate card fraud. Card fraud is defined as a form of identity theft that involves an unauthorized use of another's credit card information for the purpose of charging purchases to an account or removing funds from it. There are two types that we will define here. The first one is card present. The card is physically presented to the merchant during the fraudulent transaction. Typical types of this fraud are face-to-face transactions and are most always in a retail environment. Card not present is our second type. The card holder does not or cannot physically present the card for a merchant's visual examination at the time that an order is given and the payment is processed. The physical card is not needed to commit fraud, only the card number. Typical types are mail-in telephone orders and e-commerce. And now I'm going to share some industry statistics with you. Payment card fraud is expected to continue increasing to a projected cost of $35.67 billion in 2023 worldwide. The U.S. alone is responsible for more than a third of the total global losses, making it the most fraud-prone country in the world today. The current fraud loss rate for point-of-sale transactions in the U.S. is 1.2% of all purchases, compared with card-not-present fraud rates at 3.1% of all purchases. With legitimate point-of-sale transactions decreasing because of the coronavirus effect on economies and the increase in card-not-present activity, the compression of fraud loss rates will continue. There are advances in technology, with consumers demanding ease of payments with more electronic payment options using cell phones and tablets. Online payment fraud is 4 times more likely to occur than in-store fraud. By 2024, online payment fraud is projected to increase 52% and cost merchants more than $25 billion of losses. The small business impact. Businesses with fewer than 100 employees lose twice as much per fraud incident than businesses with more than 100 employees on staff. Basically for 3 reasons: lack of knowledge and resources, minimal funds for fraud security, and not implementing anti-fraud measures into business operations. Let's look at examples of card-present and card-not-present fraud to help you be mindful of the various forms fraud can take. We have developed some tips and guidelines to help you protect your business. Counterfeit, fake, and doctor cards are examples in the retail environment. One example is the chip on a customer's card fails and cannot be read by the terminal when processing a payment. The customer says the card is old and worn and the chip has not worked several times in the past. The customer says to swipe the card instead for the payment to go through. Our tip is, when a chip fails or a magnetic strip cannot be read, it's often a sign of a counterfeit card. Always insert chip cards instead of swipe, but never swipe after a chip fails, and avoid manually entering card information when the card is present. Another example, lost or stolen cards. A customer acts suspicious when presenting a card for payment. The expiration date and security code on the card have scratch marks and are hard to read. And after swiping the card, the terminal displays "Pickup card error" message on the terminal. Another example, an employee processes a payment and the customer signs the receipt. Before handing the card back to the customer, the employee notices the receipt signature does not match the signature on the card. Our tip is to call the number for a Code 10 authorization request, to verify the validity of the card, and alert the card issuer of suspicious activity without the customer knowing. Check the card's security features for signs of tampering, and request cardholder identification to verify cardholder identity and to collect customer signatures for all transactions to compare to signatures on cards. Notify card issuers and banks immediately if the card is misplaced or stolen. Our point-of-sale terminal example, a customer pays with a card at the gas pump. When inserting the card into the pump, the customer notices that part of the card reader moves and it's a different color. The customer continues with the payment, not knowing that a skimming device was planted on the gas pump to steal his card information. Our tip on this scenario is to check the hardware for signs of tampering and obvious differences and pull out protruding parts of a card reader to ensure equipment is secure and in one piece. Encourage the use of PIN debit cards because it is the most secure processing option. And cover the keyboard when entering your PIN and never share with others. Chip and PIN card securities with card-present payments are driving more fraudulent activity to the e-commerce industry. Online shopping now creates the greatest fraud opportunity as a result. There have been significant increases to card-not-present fraud. Unable to verify a cardholder and identity theft. An example is a customer calls to make a large card payment over the phone. He claims to be an existing customer, but it is not recognized by the employee, so additional information is requested. The customer gives the employee a tough time for not knowing customers and threatens to take his business elsewhere, since she questioned him. He even adds that he has been battling a cold, and that is why his voice sounds different. The embarrassed employee proceeds with the phone payment to please the upset customer. Our tip is use a payment provider and a processing solution that are compliant with PCI regulations. Encourage staff to be vigilant and attentive if something does not seem right or it is off. Always enter the card security code, the CVV or CVC, to check that it matches the one the card issuer has on file. Use address verification system, AVS, to match the billing address house number and zip code to what the card issuer has on file. There have been many web-based data breaches. An example, in 2017, Equifax had a data breach that exposed 143 million records. Equifax blamed the breach on a flaw in software, which resulted in hackers being able to access customers' social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, driver license numbers, and credit card numbers. Our tip is do not collect or keep information that is not absolutely needed. Shred physical documents and use software designed to permanently wipe hard drives. And restrict employee computer usage to business purposes. Block access to inappropriate websites and prohibit use of unimproved software and company computers. Mandate encryption of all data transmissions. Keep antivirus software and firewalls up to date, and implement password protection for all computers. Monitor your credit report for new bank records, and report to the credit bureau directly. Online shopping and mobile payments. An example is a criminal uses his own address for the delivery of a stolen goods purchased online with a stolen card. Example number 2, a criminal uses a synthetic ID by merging real and fake consumer data to create a fake identity and open a credit card account in someone else's name. And our third example is while viewing products on a retail merchant website, a pop-up message asks for your financial information while you are browsing for a faster checkout experience. Our tip is merchants should look out for unauthorized refunds, duplicate transactions, and excessively large orders to unknown customers. Consumers should only make purchases on websites that they trust and look for indicators that the site is secure, like the website domain. Pay attention to misspelled words and other errors as red flags for a website's legitimacy. Regularly check your credit report and do not overshare personal information on social media accounts. Merchants experience vast financial losses and liabilities when card fraud occurs. In addition to financial hardships, other losses include chargebacks, refunds, and associated fees. Merchants losing the ability to accept cards, which can lead to diminished sales. Negative publicity and press that damages the merchant's reputation and leads to the loss of customers because of low confidence in the merchant. And merchants going out of business and closing their doors. PCI Compliance is initial certification and annual recertification that ensures your compliance with applicable security data standards of card processing. Here at First Merchants, we assist our merchants with the initial certification. Merchants are responsible for recertification each year, but we are always available for questions or guidance. However, PCI Compliance is more than an annual questionnaire, and it is very important to understand the process for securing cardholder data. The Card Association's mandate that all merchants maintain the highest information security standards, and it's just good business practice to be vigilant with your customers' information. We have listed some best practices here that are good takeaways to mitigate card fraud. A few of them that I will review is maintain awareness of the latest fraud trends, password-protected secured internet, check for skimming devices, educate employees, and follow the PC data security standards. Now I will turn it back over to Heather for closing comments.
Thanks, Gretchen. If you have any questions about the solutions we've presented today, please do not hesitate to contact us at the numbers that you see on your screen. We have 2 phone numbers that you'll see on the screen that really are white glove business services phone numbers. They are intended only for our business customers. If you are accustomed to Googling First Merchants Bank customer care and calling that phone number, I would recommend that you write down the numbers that you see on your screen. Our customer care team does a great job, but businesses have additional needs with Treasury that those folks may need to fill out a ticket and get back with you. So if you call the numbers on your screen, they're generally going to be able to assist you with your request while you're on the phone. So I want to thank you for taking your time today to educate yourself on the trends that we see in fraud and how to mitigate those risks in your organization. You are the first line of defense against fraud and avoiding fraud losses. So please feel free to share this link. Share the link for the presentation. If you have any questions about any of the topics or services we covered today, please don't hesitate to give us a call at the numbers that you see on the screen. Again, thank you so much for your time today.
All right. So thanks again for joining. Does anyone have any questions?
That was good. I definitely learned something. Thank you. So
Great.
You're saying that the Nigerian prince is not going to wire transfer me to 17 million? No. Okay. Just checking.
Too funny.
All right. Well, once again, thank you so much. And, do reach out to our team anytime you have questions. We look forward to continuing to share resources like this, but we're always here for one-on-one conversations and we look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was very informative.
Great.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
Well, thank you, First Merchant Banks, for putting this together. We really appreciate it.
Very
Definitely.
good. Right.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks
Thanks
so
for
much.
joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.